game, and what do we need to do to be a better energetic match to being able to play this game? And is any technology used to help play the game? And do the rules change as the children get older? Are there different rules for the younger children, the older children, the teenagers, and so on? Thank you very much. That is all. Good day.
The answer to all of that is yes. The idea, of course, again, as following the formula refines your senses to make you more sensitive to certain kinds of energies, thus making it easier for you to find the idea of the nexus of any vortex or portal. But yes, as you change, as you mature, as you develop, and including the hybrid children, the so-called rules of the game will also change because they develop more skills, more abilities, and can expand the idea of what the game is and what it contains. So if you want to call the rules something that changes with the maturation of any particular being because now you can do more, have more abilities, have more skills in the game, then yes, those rules will change.
Good day, Bashar.
Good day.
Shavai.
What would you like to discuss?
Concerning the frequency of the individuals who are inherently experiencing a negative portion of reality and consciousness. When an individual incarnates in order to be a representation of the so-called negative frequencies or properties of the overall collective experience, what is the best way for them to go about it? For instance, an individual who is to give the collective an experience of addiction or an experience of infatuation to the point of detriment. How is one to go about a life that is inherently negative?
The idea, of course, is that anything can be used in a negative or positive way. No matter what an individual does in their state of being, others can use it to their own advantage if they so desire. That being said, all an individual has to do is choose circumstances and attract situations that constantly prevent them from becoming more aware of the fact that they are choosing that reality instead of simply feeling like a victim of it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Another question. What psychedelic resonant with this planet would be closest to the Eshikani frequency?
Dimethyltryptamine.
I have noticed that it is very hard to get away from oneself when experiencing that level of self.
Yes.
And one more question. I have an intense desire to be a part of the growth experience and the first contact experience of the Eshikani and the human race.
Well, you're having contact with us at this point, so obviously you already are a part of it, or we wouldn't be talking.
Yes. And in what way could I possibly look into being a vessel for the communication directly from a member of the Eshikani to bring forth an even clearer message in my life of connection and contact?
If you're asking that kind of a question, you should already know the answer, which is?
Follow my passion and my bliss to the highest degree of my ability with no insistence on the outcome.
And finish the formula.
You've
only stated 3 parts of it.
Bring me clarity, Bashar.
You act on your passion to the best of your ability with no assumption or assistance on the outcome, and you remain in a positive state so that no matter what occurs, no matter what manifests from your actions, you can use it to your advantage and gain the benefit from it. Simultaneously, investigating with honesty your belief systems and letting go of the ones that are out of alignment with who you prefer to be.
Yes. I can honestly say there's nothing else to ask. I will get on that immediately.
All right. We thank you. Good day.
Bye.
Aveo.
Hi, Bashar. This is Pira from Detroit, and I have a question for you about fracking and the negative effects it has on the Earth currently and in the long run. Thank you. Ha'atu.
anything in that sense that is invasive within the structure of the Earth may have long-term detrimental effects. Again, the idea is to find other sources of energy, such as the electromagnetic field of your planet, such as higher dimensional frequencies that can be downgraded, so to speak, or stepped down through transformer type structures into energy that you can use with your technology. So we would always suggest that you aim in the direction of those more natural sources of energy that are without the detrimental effects to the idea of the planet in a non-invasive way.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Hi.
Good day.
I have so two big topics or questions that I wanted to go over.
Yes.
The first is the story of Adam, Eve, and Lilith.
Yes.
I was wondering if maybe you can shed some light on that, and did these
All right.
people actually exist?
Well, in a manner of speaking, yes, although the story, you know, in a sense, has been rendered into something simplified as a tale, as a metaphor. The idea of, in the ancient language of the Anunnaki, that injected their genetics into Homo erectus to create Homo sapien, is that the male version of Homo sapien they created in their language is Adama. The female version is Eva, which you have transliterated into Adam and Eve over time. So the idea is that, of course, there was a first male and a first female, but the idea has been truncated, collapsed, condensed into the metaphorical story that you know in your Bible. Lilith represents again the idea of the continuation of the line of Homo sapien in the genetic alterations by the Anunnaki, and represents kind of the concept of independence, the ultimate independence of the human race, and the balance point that needed to be achieved when it was recognized that Homo sapien had been created, and offered the third alternative. As always, we talk about the idea that there is a trinity in existence, not just a duality. So the concept of Lilith and the feminine principle in balance, the masculine and feminine principle in balance in Lilith, creates the midpoint, the third reality, the balance point in the Trinity between the two dualities of male and female.
And why is it that Lilith, it seems to be that she was taken out of the modern version of what we learn?
Because as a patriarch, he grew and wanted to reinforce the idea of male dominance, the concept of the balance point of male and female in one body was anathema to them. And they sought to remove it so that they would retain control and empowerment over others and over the female side.
Okay, and that's interesting. And was this all done in a laboratory in Temple Mount, at Temple Mount?
There were many different labs around your planet, but the primary one was in the Middle East. The idea, again, is that, remember, this wasn't all done all at once. This took some time. So the idea of this story is quite condensed, and it condenses many, many decades, even hundreds of years of time in the creation of Homo sapien.
Okay. The Garden of Eden, can you shed some light on what that was and maybe where it was?
Well, again, in the Middle East, as given, between what you call the Tigris and Euphrates rivers in the Fertile Crescent, being the primary contact point and laboratory and civilization that the Anunnaki established when they came to Earth and spread out from there.
Okay. And the serpent that came to Eve, who or what was this?
This is simply an indication of the awakening of the genetic markers that would allow the female to be closer to the concept of the original Anunnaki genetic structure. This is why you have the double intertwined serpents on your medical caduceus still today, as an indication of the genetics laboratories and the genetics that were injected into Homo erectus to create Homo sapien, being that in the feminine side there was an alteration that allowed the feminine side to become a little bit more aware of the situation than the masculine side, and a little bit closer in expression to the original Anunnaki genetic strain.
That's interesting.
It also represents, therefore, the idea of ancient knowledge, that in a sense, because of the genetic alterations in the feminine form, there was more capability of accessing the knowledge of the Anunnaki.
That's fascinating. And in the Bible, in the Hebrew Bible, the Anunnaki, is that translated into Elohim?
For the most part, yes. Although the Elohim can also be other beings that were encountered from time to time. But in general, it's a reference to the ancient Anus, yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Bashar.
Yes.
And on another topic, so I seem to be obsessed with this story. I think it's the most exciting story, spectacular story, the story of Exodus.
Yes, yes.
Did the Jews know that were they aware that it was aliens that were taking them out of Egypt? Or
not as such. They didn't really comprehend the concept of aliens in the same way that you do today. They understood that the beings were from a higher dimensional realm, but the idea to them at that time, in their understanding, is what they ultimately decided was beings from heaven. Beings from above.
Is that what? So right now in our reality, it's kind of, we think that it's God that led the Jews out of Egypt and not actual beings. And was this what they wanted us to believe, or was it just a misunderstanding and it just kind of?
It is not that you were given information that would allow you to necessarily understand the specifics of it. So it is something that simply grew in human understanding over time based on the lack of information you had about exactly what these beings were, because they did not deem that humans were ready to understand the full implications of beings from other civilizations among the stars.
And do you think we are now?
Well, you obviously understand that there can be civilizations among the stars. You're talking to one right now.
I am.
Many people on your planet are willing to accept the possibility, at least, that there can be other civilizations on planets around other stars. This is not something that is necessarily that strange to your civilization anymore. You talk about it quite a bit in your scientific and astronomical communities.
True. Yes. And more.
Yes.
And I was wondering if you could describe, I would really like to know what the interaction was like between Moses and the ETs at the top of Mount Sinai.
Some of it was physiological, some of it was telepathic. He was invited into a craft. Many things he was made to forget, but some things he was allowed to remember, as according to what was necessary for the proper approach and interactions and relationship between those beings and the people at that time, so that they could be guided.
And lastly, the Star of David, where did that come about, and why is it the symbol of the Jews?
It is the symbol of the relationship between those beings and those people, and in general between the above and the below. It is the intersection of the higher dimensions with the lower physical reality. It is a flattened form of the Merkaba.
Okay, so why wouldn't it be just the symbol of humanity? Why not the symbol for all of us?
It is, as I said. I just said that. At the time, it was the symbol of the relationship between those specific beings and the group that they were guiding. But it is, in general, the symbol of the relationship from the above to the below, from the heavens to the earth.
Okay. And one last hard question. Why did they save the Jews from Egypt, but they didn't protect them or save them in World War II from the Holocaust?
It was important to allow certain genetics from the Anunnaki line to survive up to a certain point. But beyond that, once there was dominion of the humans of the earth to make their own decisions, their decisions could not be intervened or interfered with beyond a certain point.
Okay. Thank you so much.